So for me, it's definitely 9/11. Really shocking. Not just because of the significance of the attack on the United States, first attack on the U.S. homeland since World War II, Pearl Harbor, but it was just how it happened. Right? The country was so peaceful. It was a nice fall day, spring now, but it was a lot like this. It was same temperature, maybe blue skies, very nice. I was at work. I was working in Princeton, New Jersey at the time, and I had early meetings. So I was on my computer and on conference call. We didn't have video calls then, but I also had my computer open, and I saw a little breaking news alert on CNN said, plane hits World Trade Center in New York. And then other people on the call, must be looking at the news too, so they heard the same thing. So we started talking for a minute about, this happened once before. There was a small plane that hit the Empire State Building many years ago. So we're all like, it's really terrible, but probably a small plane like Empire State Building. And so we just went back to our work meeting. And then not long later, 15, 20 minutes later, second plane hit tower. And then immediately, without anybody really looking at news, everybody knew this is not an accident, right? Two planes don't hit within 20 minutes by accident. To me, that was the scariest and worst thing that happened in the last 30 years, for sure. Yeah, I think it's an important point because I think it's not just about 9/11. Anytime we forget history, we hurt ourselves. And that's true Korean War, it's true World War II. World War II was so bad that people forgot about World War I, right? Who talks about World War I anymore? But World War I in some ways was worse than World War II. But I think it's important to remember, right? And unfortunately, history is full of bad things. So you can't have something that you're talking about and remembering every day because there's always something bad happened. But remembering the big important events can help the future generations, because when you understand what happened and why it happened, then you can prevent it from the future happening again, right? Because when you begin to see the same circumstances developing, then you can say, okay, wait a minute, we saw this in the past, and now we can address this now before it gets worse and before something bad happens again, right? And there are many, many reasons why 9/11 happened. We all know, Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda, that's all true. But there's history behind that, right? It's not just one bad person and one bad day. There was 20 years of history that led up to the events on 9/11. It's understanding what the United States did during the Gulf War. I mean, I don't know how many people remember the Gulf War, but that was when the United States pushed back the Iraqi soldiers out of Kuwait. And that's also when Osama bin Laden, who's a Saudi Arabian, really became radicalized. He didn't like the presence of the Western forces in the Middle East. And so of that war, but it was a decade before 9/11. But 9/11 is the result of that event 10 years before. And so it's understanding what happened and why it happened so you can see the patterns developing in the future. Because if you just have a nice celebration and say, we want to remember the people who lost their lives and have a barbecue and a relaxed holiday, that's nice, but it's not going to help stop it from happening again, right? You have to understand what happened, why it happened.
I said, if you see something, say something. Yeah.
Don't do drugs, stay in school, and that's about all I can really say. And be realistic.
I would say this is something you can't really prepare for, but if something like that does happen, instead of spreading hate, stay united. Because once we divide, it's just going to create anarchy. So I would say stay united, love one another until you know what's going on,
Obviously, the Glass-Steagall Act. The repealing of the Glass-Steagall Act, clearly, in 1998.
They don't know what that is. Why was that?
That allowed investment banks and insurance companies to now merge. You weren't allowed to do that since 1929, I think it was, right? I think the Glass-Steagall Act was 1929.
Okay.
So all the stuff that's happened afterwards,
Yeah.
like the financial crises and all that stuff, it's all because of that. Oh, my first son was born in 2001. That's the one of the most important things that happens in
Okay.
That's
2002. 2002. Sorry.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you
Have a
so
good
much.
day. God
Good luck
bless
on
you.
your project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
so
Enjoy
much.
your
God
dinner.
My homelessness. How did I get homeless? Through the domestic violence. No.